What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comically Boston. I know I look different. I got glasses, shaved my beard, I have a wedding tomorrow. It looks okay, but I don't know, it could have looked better. It could look better. I like a little bit more Gandalf in my beard, but it's alright. Today we are talking about Loki, Season 2, Episode 4, The Heart of the TVA. Ooh, I'm so hyped. This show has been so good so far. Just a couple other things I want to talk about. Deadpool 3 has been delayed. I don't know if it's officially delayed, but it's looking like it's more delayed, and I'm okay with that if that means that we can get a Secret Wars that looks a lot more like this with the cameos galore. You know, bring back Punishers, bring back Ghost Riders, bring back Wolverine, bring back Toby, bring back Andrew, bring back Chris Evans as Human Torch. I don't care. Bring it back at all, but shout out to the guy that made that fan art. That just looks so dope right at the Citadel at the end of the time. Also, the Celtics have been playing pretty good basketball. The first game they won against the Knicks. I'm hyped about that. Started out on a good note. 1-0 so far. Second game tonight versus the Heat. I'm super hype about that. Hopefully tonight at the wedding rehearsal I can go over and hopefully they have a TV or something and I can watch the Celtics game, because that's what I'm really looking forward to. But this episode 4 of Loki at the TVA, I'm so glad that Marvel went this route and started making crazy sets, because obviously like the things in the windows and that background are probably blue screens, but everything else is a set, you know, so it feels so real and so lived in like a real place that you could go to. Like, just look at this set of the TVA. Like, this looks amazing. I absolutely love the set design, and every shot of Loki so far has been just like, it looks freaking great, and you're like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to look. But let's get right into it, y'all. Loki Season 2, Episode 4 is underway. And what the hell happens in this episode? I'm really not too sure. We open up from the end of last episode. Sylvie had kicked Ravonna Renslayer into the Citadel at the end of the time, and her and Miss Minutes are there, and Miss Minutes has a secret. So we open on Miss Minutes' secret. We hear Kang say Protocol 42 in this little playback. It's almost like Miss Minutes is playing back like a tape recorder, playing back the conversation she overheard, but she makes Ravonna see it, almost like a hologram projection thing that like is tangible. It was like right there, like a little miniature version of the Citadel with them as little miniatures. You can see Ravonna's face in the background. Like, this is insane. When this conversation takes place, we don't know, but it's the same conversation that Loki heard back in episode 1. So, you know, and there's also some stuff that loops back in from episode 1, all that time slipping and shit. So like, this episode's so wild, and we'll get more into it and what I think this episode truly is by the end of this episode. But this is how the episode starts, you know, we hear him talking to Ravonna, the whole, you're a marvel, you know, like, I couldn't have won this war without you. And she's like, the TVA needs ruling to do. Let's go rule it. And he's like, yeah, I'll catch up with you. She walks through a time door, and then he calls in Miss Minutes and goes, hey, Protocol 42. Why is it Protocol 42? Why is that specific number the number they use? Is it because of Miles Morales and that whole 42 shit that was going on in that multiverse world? Who knows? I think it could be a possibility. You know, moving on from that, you know, the intro plays and Miss Minutes and Renslayer are talking. She's like, oh, I don't think we need him at all. I don't think we ever needed him, right? Saying like, okay, Miss Minutes and Miss Renslayer are going to take over the TVA and just screw Timely and screw Kang, but they know they still need his like aura, like his, you know what I mean, to unlock things, same way that Loki and OB and Owen Wilson do, Mobius. So then the intro plays with the spooky little Loki letters changing, and then Timely, we get now what happens to Victor Timely, because they kicked him through a time door. We see him come the other end of that time door, and where he shows up in the TVA. He starts walking around, seeing, you know, the sculptures of He Who Remains' face that look like his, the people that are like Kang variants fighting in the banners, you know, and then Loki and Mobius come up to him, And he's like, oh God, no, please. And they're like, you're all right. And then Sylvie walks up behind him and he's like, oh, another one, great. And she's like, oh yeah, I'll kill you, motherfucker. What are you looking at? You know, like, OB then, the time loom needs fixing, and the only one that can fix it is a He Who Remains variant, or Victor Timely himself. So then they bring Timely to OB. OB and Timely start geeking out over each other. It's hilarious because you're sitting there going, okay, this whole time we thought OB wrote this book, and maybe I thought OB was like the OG guy. Maybe he's just like the OG TVA agent, you know what I mean? Like he's the original guy that was there with the old Victor Timely. But like, how does time work? Because if everything's a flat circle, it really makes no sense, but like it's still kind of makes sense. You know, you still get it, but you're still like questioning it, like, why does this make sense? But it does. OB's like in Starstruck too, the same way Victor Timely was, because we saw Victor Timely as a child get that book dropped in his window, so he thinks, Ouroboros, you're the author of this book. And then OB's like, yeah, everything that's in this book I learned from a 19th century scientist named Victor Timely. And then looks up and goes, Victor? And he's like, will you sign my book? Only if you'll sign mine. You know, like, oh, I fucking love OB. He's got to be the best casting. You know, Ki Hu Kwan's been one of my favorite parts about this entire season. He's just been great. I'm glad that he's been around for 4 episodes and he hasn't just been like a little cameo. They gave him an actual role. So they geek out over each other, and it's not quite sure, did OB write the book with Timely's help, or did Timely write the book with OB's help? When in time did the book actually get written? We have no idea. All we know is that they both wrote the book. So that's okay. Then, you know, they need a little device to fix the time loom. OB doesn't know how to fix the time loom. Timely goes, I had the same problem, and I invented this little spear thing, which awfully looks like the little chair, you know, a miniature version of the time chair that Kang had in Quantumania. So for me, I'm like, shit, is this the first prototype of that time chair and that little spear orb thing that we saw in Quantumania? I don't know. I don't think, everyone's like, Kang got beat by ants. I don't think he was beat. You know, the same way Scott was acting at the end of Quantumania. He was like, did I just doom everyone? Is everyone going to die? Is this a problem? Where did he go? And then he's like, it's probably okay. And he keeps walking. Like, it's probably not okay. It's probably a big problem where Kang the Conqueror is right now. And I don't know if we'll see him in this series, but I really hope we do. By like the end of this series, you know, like give us those the same variants we saw at the end of Quantumania in that post-credit scene. Let me see some of those bastards this season. Or if not, just let me see Loki interact with Kang. Like, how cool would it be? This is a fan-made art, but how cool would it be if we see Loki with the bendy horns squaring up with old Timely, or old Kang the Conqueror here? I hope we see how he gets those scars too, you know, like that's... Oh, Kang, I wasn't the biggest fan of Quantumania, but I loved Kang. You know, I thought the whole Kang side of it and his whole story, it was super interesting. I want to see more about it. But Hunter B-15 then goes and talks to the prisoners, because the TVA agents, Docs and Liza Aaron, the lady from Game of Thrones, in X5, they're all in that room where X5 was, where they could get boxed to death. And, you know, later in the episodes, that comes up again, so we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But they're all in that room, and B-15 walks in, and she's like, listen, I don't want to hurt you, I don't want to have you in here, like, I care about this place and the people in the TVA. If you're willing to help us, you know, like, and it's shocking, because you're like, oh man, like, B-15's still like a good lady. She's like not trying to just kill these people, you know, she actually cares about the agents, and all those agents are like, you're really gonna trust her? And she's like, I don't need to trust her to know that B-15 has integrity, which is like, yeah, okay, B-15's been a badass bitch this whole time. Sylvie and Loki and Mobius, they have to leave Victor Timely and OB to fix the time loom, because they're the only two that know how it works, so they're gonna fix it. And Loki and Mobius walk out of the room and go, okay, let's give these guys some space. And Mobius, of course, goes, okay, let's go get some pie. And Sylvie's like, fucking pie? You want pie at a time like this? And, you know, goes, you don't even care about the timelines. You don't realize that all those people are dying. Timelines are just lines on a monitor. It's okay if a couple disappear, right? You know, like, it doesn't matter if a few disappear, is what she says, you know, and you're like, oh man, maybe this is the real problem with what we've been seeing of pruning timelines. We haven't really seen what it looks like when a timeline gets pruned from the timeline's perspective. We've only seen that from the TVA's perspective, where it's just like, oh, this line disappears, no biggie. And like, I don't know, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it is a whole different life gets branched off it. I initially, in one of my last videos, said that like, the timeline is here, and then you walk through a door and it branches your timeline depending on what your branching moment may be. It might be be given a book by a TVA agent that you weren't supposed to be getting. Now you're the scientist guy from 1893. Who knows? You know, like, I don't know. When you start talking about the time travel and the way time works and everything, it just gets confusing. But like, I have so many questions that I need answers to, and things that I want to know the true meaning behind. And it's like, oh man, this is tough. But so Sylvie's like, talking shit. She's like, I don't want no fucking pie. This is not time to get pie. And then she goes, I took a wrong turn. I didn't mean to end up in Pie Land. So her and Loki have a conversation in the pie den. And, it's actually a fucking deep conversation. He's like, you're here. She's like, I'm here. I'm helping you. And he's like, you're here because you didn't kill Victor Timely. And she's like, Timely was scared. He Who Remains wasn't scared. What, so Sylvie's still got a heart. She's not just going to kill somebody because he's scared and, it is what it is type of deal. Like, she's like, Timely, maybe Timely was right. Timely was like, you don't know me. You don't know the heart I have. And like, He Who Remains might not have it at all, but Victor Timely might be the start of He Who Remains. You know what I mean? Like, let Victor Timely live eons and see if he's not the same guy. But right now, in the moment of who he is, he's not a bad guy necessarily. And, he even offers to be the volunteer at the end of this episode. But we'll talk about that more in the wild twist of this episode. But Loki goes, trying to fix what's broken is hard. Because at first he goes, annihilating is easy. Raising things to the ground is easy. Trying to fix what's broken is hard. Hope is hard. Ooh, which is such a like deep statement. But then you think about where this Loki's been. Like, these are his experiences. Like, annihilating Earth is easy. It wasn't that hard to bring an army to Earth, but it was hard to finish the job, which he never did. It's not hard to break things, right? You can break anything. What's hard is to fix what's broken is hard, right? So he had to fix his relationship with Odin. He had to hope that his relationship could be fixed with his brother, but you have to have hope to have any type of, moving on in life, or you're just going to stay in the same place forever, and that sucks. And Sylvie's like, says something about gods, and Loki's like, we are gods. We are legitimately gods. Like, I think she said something along the lines of like, that sounds like the power of gods. And he like walks right up to her and goes, we are gods. Then walks out the door, and Sylvie follows, and she's kind of like sad walking, following him. And then Ravonna goes to the prisoners, and this little psychopath, look at Miss Minutes over her corner, right? Ravonna goes to the prisoners, work with me, get out of here, or be against us type of deal. And X5 is the only person that kind of takes her up on her offer, because she offers, if you help me take back the TVA, you can have a life on the timeline if you want it. So you can accept the offer and go back on your timeline and help her take back the TVA, or you can be against her, or the way I see it, you could have accepted her offer, not gone back on the timeline, but stayed as an agent of the TVA if you really loved the TVA so much. But like, they didn't really go for that either. So X5 is the only one that takes Ravonna up on her ideas, and then they fire up the square box machine, and Liza Aaron and the rest of these TVA, look at it, there's a bunch of them. We saw when Brad Wolf was in the box, one person was in the box, we saw what it was doing to him, and they didn't fully smush the box. They put all of these people in the box and then smush it, and you just hear like the squishing and the, you know, like the, like it had to have been so gruesome. And Marvel, you are so soft for not showing us this. I want to see the gruesomeness of what happened in those people of that box. I want to see the blood on the floor. They avoided it. They just implied that something really terrible just happened. And I don't think, I initially thought like, okay, they were going to get smushed down and it was going to prune them into the void. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more along the lines of the vents on the floor are like blood draining vents. So like it's an easier cleanup, you know, like it's a drain vent instead of just like a tile floor that they have to clean up. So they almost like this is their torture room. Like they've smushed a lot of people to death in the past. But as she smushes people to death, Miss Minutes fucking crazy diabolical ass is happy, like, ooh, yeah, like enjoying it. Brad Wolf's almost like trying not to look. Even Ravona's face was like, ugh, this is gruesome. And like she was the one doing it, Ravona. And Miss Minutes is like absolutely loving it. Why is she loving that so much? Is it because the box is made out of the same thing that she's made out of? You know, because it kind of appears out of nowhere. It does have this tangible thing that you can grab it, you know, like you can touch it. Same thing with Miss Minutes. I think you could touch her if you could get close enough, but she could also pop and appear somewhere else, you know, like it's so like weird finding out more about what Miss Minutes is, because the more we find out, the crazier it gets, and you're like, this bitch is nuts. I don't trust anything about Miss Minutes. She's going to kill everybody if she gets the chance. Shit's wild. And then as Ravone is crushing people, Victor Timely sees Mobius with a hot cocoa and goes, could I see that machine? You have a machine that makes cocoa. Cocoa. You know, he's got this like lisp. I love how Jonathan Majors plays the role. I mean, I really wish his court case was over a long time ago by now. I hope he's innocent, because this guy, as Kang the Conqueror, He Who Remains, whichever variants, I think he's killed it every single time. So I really hope that, you know, he can be innocent and we don't look at him for all this fucking bullshit. And I hope he's not guilty, and then we have to recast, and that's a whole nother can of worms, you know? Like, this shit's, it's a real, it's tough. It's tough. So then, as Timely goes to get Hakoko, Miss Minutes blocks them from using Tempads, so none of the Tempads start working. So OB's like, oh no, Miss Minutes is back, oh god. And then they go to the hot cocoa machine. The hot cocoa's on the ground because Timely made the hot cocoa, then passed it to the TVA agent that was standing there with him, that took him over to the hot cocoa machine. And what happened to that guy, once he got handed the hot cocoa, he got pruned by Brad Wolf. Hot cocoa hits the ground. Brad Wolf takes Victor Timely over to Renslayer and Miss Minutes. Miss Minutes gives him the dirtiest of looks, just like, you turned me off the last time I seen you. And he's like, oh, Miss Minutes, Miss Ravona, how good to see you, you're alive, oh. You know, like, he's still a con man. Like, as much as he's working with OB and Loki and Mobius, he also wants to work with them. He wants to work with the highest bidder type of deal, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, hey, as long as I'm alive, I don't care who I have to work with, you know, like. But then it gets weird. Things start to loop back in on themselves. Almost like in Ouroboros, where the snake is going and then it eats its own tail. So the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. You know what I'm saying, right? So like, if it's a flat circle, and it's not just one continuous line, the end has to be the beginning, and the beginning has to be the end. It makes no sense at all, but yet it still kind of makes sense in some weird way. So things loop back in from episode 1. Loki time slipping. We see him time slipping. We see the future Loki show up to the elevator because Sylvie had to go up the elevator. She goes, take the stairs. So then we see the episode 1 questions when Sylvie had he was opening the elevator and Loki was all like, what the hell's going on? The phone's ringing. We find out who was on the phone. We find out why Sylvie was in the elevator. We find out who prones Loki, but future Loki himself. And as he does it, he's like shaking with the time stick in his hand. He's like, trust me, this is going to make sense. And she's like, what is going on? Then they both look at the phone, and the whole time we're like, who is going to be on this phone? They pick up the phone, and it's OB. Hey, what took you so long to answer the phone? You know, like, oh, God. And you're like, oh, okay, if anyone was going to be on the phone and it was going to be just like a joke, it's OB. We're okay with it. You know, like if it was anyone else, we would have been like, all right, that was bullshit. But it's crazy how that was all stuff that happened and they showed us in episode 1 and then they looped back in. So if the episode 1 is the beginning and episode 4 is the end, episode 1 is also the end, but episode 4 is also the beginning. Did that make any sense? I don't know. But I'm guessing this is the point, because like we still have 2 more episodes, so what's going to happen from there? I don't know if the timeline just exploded at the end of this episode, or if it begins, like the Big Bang, you know what I mean? Like it begins and now this is the start of time. Even though it's chaos and it was just the end of time, now it's a new beginning and we go from here and this is the new sacred timeline type of deal. I don't know, because they were trying to repair the timeline, and the timeline looks like this currently. You know, like it's got all these webs of multiverse and it's almost trying to weave itself back into a rope, but it's not quite working because of the excess of timelines coming in from the left side. So like they have to fix this shit or this shit's gonna explode. They have to go, hey, we have to reboot the system. And they go, well, why don't you reboot the system? And he's like, well, because magic won't be able to not be used in the TVA anymore. And Loki and Sylvie are like, fucking reboot it, so that they could use magic in the TVA. Like they're the only ones that can use magic, so like everyone, it was really protecting everyone else from them at the TVA, but they're the ones that are running the bitch now, so they're like, yeah, reboot it. So they reboot the bitch, and Miss Minutes is included in that reboot. So now Miss Minutes starts glitching out. She's like, oh no, I have to tell you something, and then she like dies. You know, like you see this little outline hologram of her with the X's, then she pops back in and goes, you'll never be him. Oh! Talking to Victor Timely either about He Who Remains or about Kang the Conqueror's fucking ass. And either way, you'll never be him. Like, ooh, that was such a good, like, demonic line from now this dying Miss Minutes. Like, who the fuck, what happened to Miss Minutes? Because then she comes back and it's not the Miss Minutes we know. It's like an outline of a clock and like probably her earliest reboot, you know, update of her iteration of AI. Craziness. So they reboot the system and X5, you know, is still on the hunt and looks for Loki, and you see just Loki's shadow against the wall of like the banner with He Who Remains fighting shit, and he's like, X5, fancy a rematch? And then Sylvie grabs him from behind and enchants his ass. So we know from season 1 that she can take over people's mind and control their body. So X5 walks into the room that Miss Minutes was in. Ravonna and Victor Timely just walks in nonchalant as X5, right? But she's controlling X5. Then walks over to Ravonna and goes, oh, fancy meeting you here. It says something like little charming, but it's now the actor that's playing X5 but acting like Sylvie prunes Ravonna, and then we see after the fact that X5 was enchanted and he like kind of is holding the prune stick like, what the hell happened? How did I end up back in here? What's going on? You know, and not realizing that he just pruned Ravonna. So like, that's crazy. Like Ravonna now is pruned. The guy that X5 pruned with the hot cocoa, he's pruned. Everyone else got crushed in that box. So there's a couple people that are in the void, right? So a couple images that we know we've seen of the season that haven't shown up yet. Ravonna in the void, so she's going to be seeing Eliath or something. I don't know what's the deal with that. If either she gets eaten by Eliath or she tames Eliath. Eliath is her buddy. Who knows? We also see Loki in this weave of wires. I don't know if this has already shown up. I don't think it has. There's also this train car or whatever this small oval window is where Sylvie and Mobius are, and they're going, Loki! And whatever that means, and maybe that's from the same scene as this. They're in the background, and the doors are shut, and Loki's on the outside walking towards what just happened. I'm thinking this is next episode, you know, because the end of this episode, Victor Timely decides, hey, I want to walk into, I'm going to go save the day, because I'm the one, maybe if there's a problem, I can fix it. And what happens to Victor Timely? But he gets pruned or whatever the fuck happens to him, and he gets spaghetti-fied, and it looks brutal. It looks awful. And he almost instantaneously, like, just bang, just turns into fucking spaghetti, which is nuts. You know, that's, you know, Kang, that's He Who Remains, that's the guy the whole season's been about, and all of a sudden you're just gonna make him spaghetti? Like, So now nobody knows what's happened in this next episode. The only shots we see to close out the episode are the timeline itself turning into like a ball of fire or whatever this is. And but it almost looks like one solid line again. You know, I'm not seeing so many lines. So maybe just Spaghettify and Victor Timely did something and it's starting to work, or it just is exploding and it's all coming to an end because we get a punch in on Tom Hiddleston's face and he looks like he's about to cry and the light's so bright, and then he just kind of like turns and like, you know, closes his eyes like bracing for impact, and that's where like the episode ends. And you know, we just see this one other shot from them, the top image from them from behind them, and it's just, you know, you can see the bright light coming from the window. And then the only other shot of the episode that I really want to talk about is Hunter B-15 walks into that room where they had just smushed all those people, and they don't show us what she sees, but just the look on her face and the way that this actress, her facial expressions, whenever she's reacting to something, like just by her facial expressions, you feel it, you know, like you feel like, oh man, something devastating just happened, because the way she just looked, that shit was not good. But comment below, what do you think happened at the end? What the hell happened at the end of this episode? What is going to happen next week? Why was Miss Minutes so happy that the TVA agent prisoners got crushed? What happened to Victor Timely? I have so many questions. We're going to talk more about it on Monday's podcast. Stay tuned for that. I also finished Spider-Man 2, the video game, so I'm going to avoid spoilers for the people that haven't seen that. But Monday, we're going to be talking full spoilers about the end of that game. So go finish that this weekend if you haven't. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have made it this far into the videos, I really appreciate all you guys that watch. Please like, comment, subscribe. All my links are down in the description below. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd. Go check out my Letterboxd. I got more movie reviews coming to the channel. Black Widow coming out Saturday. I don't know if I have a video Sunday. This is going to be a busy weekend with the wedding. I'm a groomsman, so shout out Langone. Congratulations to you for getting married. Congratulations on having a little baby girl as well. She's adorable. She's one of the cutest little girls I've ever seen in my life, and I'm not a kid person at all. So every time I see a picture of this little girl and I want to go get her gifts, I'm like, stop it, Cam. You don't like children. Stop liking this one. But it's one of my best buddies' daughter, and she reminds me a lot of him. Yeah, like, so she's just a cute little girl. She's cute as a button. Just want to get her little stuffed animals and treat her like fucking princess she is. Get her fucking anything she wants. You know, kind of like a Happy Hogan to Morgan Stark. You know, your dad liked cheeseburgers. Do you want a cheeseburger? I'm going to get you all the cheeseburgers you want. Love you 3,000, Langone. Alright, y'all. I'll see you in the next episode. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss future videos. And stay tuned for Monday's video. We're going to be talking more about Loki Season 2, Episode 4, and my predictions for Episode 5. Email me if you have any questions that you want to ask me or any questions you want to talk about Loki. ComicallyBoston@gmail.com. I'll see you guys over there, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.